There's no way I'm moving when people can see me. So the next day I trained in the morning and spent the whole afternoon packing. Once everyone was asleep, we took the carriage and headed to a lakeside located about 3 hours one way from the royal capital. And then running away to a luxury villa. Rich people can be lavish even when they're in a bad mood. Even when it comes to love affairs, rich people tend to be firm in their approach. A huge villa built on the bank. Illuminated by the moonlight, the scene was eerie, or rather almost fantastical, and Yoras and Iris, holding their night escape kit, stood there gaping. As expected, it was a villa built by a family that was, in some ways, even wealthier than aristocrats. There was no sign of life, and it was probably built for a holiday. The expression, a waste of a treasure, comes to mind. However, this villa, which is only used maybe once a year, has now come to play a major role. Is that okay? It seems like the quality is too high to just be rented out in the middle of the night. If we were to lend it to royalty, we'd have to prepare at least this much, so it'll be fine. A girl with silver hair fluttering in the wind blowing by the lakeside smiles brightly. This time, Fear was given shelter by Luna, the only daughter of the chairman of the Board of Trade and the heroine of the game. He was already waiting at the entrance to greet me. And, well, if it's for Lord Julius, I can at least do this. Hey, buddy! Why are you giving me that dirty look? Iris couldn't stop glaring at her master, who she had seduced to the point of easily getting him to give her an entire mansion. For now, please come inside. Fear Sama and the others are unpacking their luggage up ahead. Now that I think about it, why are we the latecomers? Because my master was fast asleep in the carriage. Sorry, Luna gave a wry smile at the exchange between the two and slowly opened the large door. Despite the cold stares piercing him from the side, Julius slowly made his way inside. Sure enough, just as I had sensed, there was no one in sight. In order to limit her comings and goings, they probably didn't provide any servants to look after her this time. Looking around curiously, Julius follows his guide as he walks along. I think you know this, but there's no one else here except you guys. That means that Iris-chan is the only maid left. I'm really excited. Fafu, you're very reliable. If there's anything you need, just let me know. I'll do my best to provide it. Master, this person is very good. Are you a thief? Iris' reputation changes dramatically as the word becomes more reliable. Julius became worried about the girl's future. I wish I could show you the layout of the rooms, the facilities, and so on, but I have to go home after this, so I think I'll leave the rest to the reliable Iris-chan. Huh? You're not going to live with us? To be honest, I'd love to live with you guys as well, but I have a school to attend. Besides, if I go in and out of school too often, I might get caught. So I'm just providing you with supplies and a place to live. If you go in and out repeatedly, you'll attract attention. If you were to suddenly start commuting to and from the school, a distance that takes 3 hours one way, some people would probably find it strange. Fear has to stay here quietly until things settle down. Luna was right that it would be best to only go in and out when absolutely necessary. However, is that okay? From what I've heard, it seems like Luna has only suffered losses. Fafu, thank you for your concern. But I'm a merchant, you know. If there's a chance to do the royalty a favor, then an investment of this size would be ideal. Is that so? Well, like I said before, if I want to repay the kindness shown to me by Lord Julius, this is no big deal. Luna turned around and gave a charming smile. I want to help you, whether indirectly or directly. That's what makes you special to me, a sudden honest smile and affection. As expected of one of the heroines, Julia's heart involuntarily began pounding. However, seeing Yura's acting all lovey-dovey with the girl, Iris secretly becomes wary and thinks, he's a nice guy, but he's dangerous, so it's totally fine even if we destroy this villa. What do you mean? That's why. It's scary, but if we were to fight here, it would break, right? But if we were to fight without breaking it, it would be difficult for Julius and his people to fight. That is so. But even so, if you say something like it's okay to break it, The special comment I made a moment ago feels quite heavy. Cough. Well, by the way, how is the school going? There was a bit of a commotion, but it's reopened, right? To avoid any confusion, Julius cleared his throat and changed the subject. Yeah, I guess it's normal. Certainly, there was a fuss early on, but it was something that involved royalty, so there weren't many complaints from everyone. I see. Are you interested in the academy, Julius? I honestly thought you weren't that interested. Well, I don't want to go there, but I'm interested. Especially the human relations and events. The only thing I'm interested in is what the original work is like. The two heroines and the villain, Julius, disappeared from the school right from the start. How does this change the story? Since I'm far away, I probably won't get involved, but it's still intriguing. I'm especially curious about what the main character is up to. I don't want to meet him, but I don't know how he'll grow up. Will it affect me or not? If you know about it, you may be able to avoid it in advance. That's why I was interested in the story of Luna, who attends the school. And then, in that case, well, should I tell you? I appreciate that, but how recently our company has been making magic tools that allow you to talk to people who are far away. Luna took out an earring from her pocket. The decoration is simple, with a small stone set inside, resembling an emerald. When we have this together, we can talk no matter where we are, huh? Maybe it's a radio. Julius looked at it with interest as he received it. If it's okay with you, Julius, I could tell you about my recent situation or what's going on at school. Oh, that's a big help. Thank you so much. You'll end up interacting with one heroine, but it's easier to deal with if something happens within sight. If he was going to tell me about the latest happenings at school, there would be no reason not to accept his kindness. Haha. With this, I can sense the protagonist's movements in advance and avoid the doom flag. What should I do? Now my life is completely safe, and I can just watch from a safe distance. Haha, perhaps that was why after accepting it, Julius began to smile eerily to himself. On the other hand, I did it! I was wondering how to give it to you, but now I can talk to Julius every day. It's okay. I still have the advantage of being able to be with you on a daily basis. I'm the one who's in the bath and bed with you. Luna was clenching her fists with a look of joy, and Iris, on the other hand, had something burning in her eyes. This strange scene continued for a while inside the deserted villa. Well, 2 weeks have passed quickly. It's like running away in the night or playing hide and seek. I've gotten used to living out of the public eye, and it's starting to make me wonder, what am I doing? Because yes, Selena-senpai. Please put on some clothes, I'm particular about the underwear I wear at home. This is bad! Master is having a nosebleed and has collapsed. Such a grand and lucky event occurred, Julius. This is the man who founded the kingdom. Master, you're wrong here too. Why should I be studying now? Is it because you're bored? It's because I'm bored. How carefree to study. It was such a peaceful environment that it was hard to believe that they were working to protect lives. However, this can't be helped. As things stand, a separate unit from Ulysses and the others is searching for the culprit in an attempt to lower the bounty, so there is no way we can take any action on our side. Until this is over, it must prioritize his life and remain inconspicuous. It looks like the incident is finally coming to an end. A beautiful full moon rises over the lake. Celia said this while holding a letter and looking sexy in her bathrobe, something I've gotten used to seeing recently. Oh, that's good to hear. So, is that letter from the Knights? Well, that's about it. It just arrived. I thought. Iris, stretching in her maid outfit, reacts by saying, finally, in the end, it seems that it all started when a nobleman from a neighboring country fell in love with the princess at first sight. Then, combined with his various strange hobbies, he became an extreme stalker. I don't understand his feelings at all, but it seems that he's the type of man who can get excited even by a corpse as long as it has a beautiful face. It's a hobby I really can't relate to at all. As she sat alone at the table sipping tea, Lizelot's cheeks twitched. There are 3 people here at the moment. It looks like a group of female knights acting as guards are gathered together. Incidentally, the third princess, Fear, is currently resting in her room, while Julius is on guard outside by himself. Love affairs are generally beautiful stories if they don't cause trouble for others. You guys should be careful too, okay? Love can take many forms, but this is definitely going to make the other person dislike you. That's such a nuisance. Love maniac, please don't lump me in with them. Being by their side and taking care of them is the way I show my love. My apologies. I'm afraid I may end up lowering the favorability rating of my cute junior, so I'll refrain from meddling any further. Celia smiled as she folded the letter and put it in her bosom. So, when is this life going to end after all? Right now, we're lobbying a neighboring country to pursue that noble. As expected, it's not like we can just casually force someone into a bondage game with rope when it comes to a foreign country, but you have some evidence, right? I think there is. However, it's going to be difficult because it's not a matter of our own country. Well, we have friendly relations with our neighboring countries, so I'm sure they'll cooperate to a certain extent, but if we're not careful, it could develop into an international issue. However, Celia looked a little serious. Honestly, I can't tell what's going to happen from here. The cornered rat will probably try its best to escape, but there's no telling what the cat it was trying to keep as a pet will do. I understand that you're trying to run away because you don't want to get caught. Maybe they're trying to erase all the evidence to make an excuse for themselves. However, the problem isn't the person who put the bounty on him. There are people behind the scenes who want to solve the problem quickly and get their hands on the money before the bounty disappears. The dark gal wants money too. They want to avoid the stigma of not being able to achieve their goal. That's why they probably want to try and get their hands on the princess somehow before that foolish noble gets caught. In other words, Lizelot put her cup down and looked a little nervous. Celia then shrugged her shoulders and spoke. This is the crucial moment. Our location may soon be split up, and we should think that a big event that no one wants is waiting for us. I hope we can prepare to run away in time. The full moon is beautiful. I think it's also nice to look up alone. The moon reflected on the lake was particularly fantastical, and the plants swaying in the cool breeze made it look even more beautiful. Julius was standing alone at the entrance to the villa, admiring this view. However, I started to get annoyed when unnecessary options started appearing one after another. So this night order won't even let me enjoy a nice moon viewing experience? Should I report this to the Labor Standards Office and tell them that no matter what I do, my workplace is a black market? This villa has a great view. Although it is located in the forest, the center of the lake is open, making it easy to spot visitors from any side. That's why visitors have no choice but to act confidently. And if you really want to visit, you have no choice but to go in a large group. As a result, Julius saw dozens of people dressed in black. I wish this was the only customer. But this bastard has finally made a move. White breath begins to spill from Julius' mouth. And come on, punch out your time card and get to work. Get to work early, Princess. If I don't go and look after the shrine, I'll get told off for having too much trash. In an instant, a curtain of ice was laid over the villa. Even if I couldn't attend school, to be honest, it wouldn't affect me that much personally. Before even enrolling, she had been drilled by private tutors into her studies, and she already had a good grasp of horse riding, table manners, magic, and swordsmanship. The reason I still had to attend school was simply because of the friendships I had. Relationships built when you're young often last unless they're broken. It's easier to build relationships with people who are likely to support you and contribute to the kingdom in the future than it is to form a party. Therefore, I couldn't afford to miss out on my short school life. Also, there's the simple thought that only a young person can have, curiosity about wanting to experience school life. Would I be able to make friends who don't care about the benefits? Would I be able to study together? Would I be able to hang out with kids my age after school? Well, in the end, my life took priority and I was isolated in the villa, but even so, I wasn't that depressed. I don't want to throw away my life or the lives of those around me just because of a little selfishness. And above all else, what should I do? I haven't been able to have a proper conversation with Julius recently. Alone in the room that had been assigned to her, Fear let out a big sigh, her lustrous blonde hair swaying. A cool breeze blows through the open balcony, offering a view of the lakeside shining in the moonlight. However, despite the beautiful scenery, Fea's heart was a little depressed. One reason is surely that their lives are at risk. However, I think that more than anything, he is disgusted with himself for being like this. This opportunity should have been the perfect chance to build a relationship with Julius. Fear is the type of person who doesn't give up for free even when she falls. I hope to take this opportunity and find something positive out of it, rather than ending up crying. That's why I tried to deepen my connection with Ulysses, who I had had my eye on for some time. Yossi Blanche is someone the kingdom, or rather, the royal family, should have on its side. After all, at a young age, he possesses the skills to overwhelm not only those his age, but other adults as well. A bundle of talent with high expectations for the future. If Julius' abilities became known to those around him, it's likely that many nobles would seek to employ him. In fact, a girl named Lizelot is trying to approach him and express her feelings. In that case, I can't lose. As a woman born a princess, I must build the strongest relationship with her. The most desirable outcome would be marriage, meaning falling in love with Ulysses. Therefore, this situation under the same roof should be ideal. He must continue to appeal to Julius and use his body to get his attention. But when I see Lord Julius' face, I can't seem to keep my cool. My voice gets high-pitched when I talk. When I hear your voice, my heart beats faster. When I look at his face, heat rises to my cheeks. And just being aware that I was in the same space as Julius made those words cross my mind. Listen, I will absolutely help you. I'll protect you so that you can live your school life with a smile from now on. Once again, Fear, who was supposed to be alone, had a faint crimson tint on her cheeks. But then I took a deep breath to regain my composure. I have to be careful. I don't know what the cause of the symptom is, but I can't miss this opportunity. Fear has never experienced love even once. Since ancient times, when one was born as a princess, the phrase "for the good of the country" was always used to describe finding a partner. That's why I don't know. Princess doesn't notice. One day, the protagonist will make the protagonist aware of the true nature of these emotions. But the visitor did not give us that time. Yes, yes! Things were starting to get a little desperate on our side, so I forced myself to come and play. Princess, after all. The view from the balcony was suddenly covered in thin sparkling ice. The ceiling of the room collapsed in one go. You know, when I tried to go inside, it was covered in a huge layer of ice. Maybe they're refusing surprise visits. A girl with black and pink hair appeared along with the rubble. Her bright, charming, and cute face is in stark contrast to the murderous intent that oozes out from her. Fierce vigilance was instantly raised. You, a girl who loves thrills? I haven't really introduced myself that much, so I don't know what to say, because you say. The girl with the mesh implants Ronnie laughed ferociously. Before that happens, everyone will die. I'll go there someday, so I'd like to introduce myself properly in the open sky, and then ha ha ha. Come on, let's have a revenge match. I'll pay you back for what I owe you, you brat. It really was without a moment's hesitation. Iris appeared from the wall next to her, holding a bellow sword, and blew the petite girl's body over the balcony. I'm a 13-year-old whose hobby is taking care of my master. I don't have any plans to go to the sun, so I'll introduce myself now. Is Monichen stupid? Everyone has to rise above the sun someday, right? In fact, I'll let you go right now. The two girls disappear from the balcony. Fear took one look at the situation and that child is from that guild, which means that Julius predicts there will be one more person joining. This time, it was the sudden flashy visit. The door to the room was swung open and Lizelot appeared. Fear-sama, this way! We're escaping from the mansion. I don't disagree with that statement. Fear turned away from the balcony and headed towards Lizelot. What about Lady Celia and Lady Junis? Ulysses is currently welcoming many guests. Celia said. The hallway of the villa became noisy. Then, for some reason, a girl appears in an instant, creating an out-of-place feeling in the scenery. Then, he sighed softly at the roar that echoed in his ears. Oh, Rooney, you're going too far. Well, maybe that was a good thing in a way. The more people there are to distract us, the better. The guild member he was facing head-on, his younger sister making a grand entrance. If one of them could just take advantage of that opportunity to eliminate the princess home. It looks like I got the bad end of the stick, with a bang. The sound of heels echoed through the corridor where the girl Chloe was walking. From the dim space, this time slowly, Celia appeared, sparkling threads extending from her fingertips, as if to assert her presence. How did you know? Even though he appeared out of nowhere, for some reason there was an enemy. Did he just happen to be there? A question arose in Chloe's mind. Even if it's wood or stone, the thread can be threaded through it without damaging it. If any unexpected vibrations are transmitted, that's a sign of an intruder. Well, that only applies within this mansion though. Then Celia, sensing Chloe's question, spoke as if to answer. Thanks to this, the idea of coincidence that had come to my mind disappears. Whew, it didn't turn into a revenge match, but she's one of those girls who has a lot of pent-up frustration. So, now it's time to take out my frustration on her. And here too! The curtain was quietly raised on a battle that was not in the scenario. After moving into the villa provided by Luna, the members of the Knights had decided on a few things. One is to send out a clear marker if an intruder appears. The guards take turns to keep watch, and when it's their turn, they give a signal to the people inside the villa. This time, Julius had covered the entire place in a layer of ice, which was the correct signal to let everyone know. The second is division of roles. Someone who faces off against attackers, others who let fear escape, and others who can respond to either situation. Considering their individual abilities, Julius and Iris would be better off fighting the enemy. Celia, who has experience, would be on standby so she could deal with either side, and Lizelot, who can keep a close eye on the battlefield and make calm decisions, would be better suited as an escort. In the event of an attack, the ability to act calmly and quickly is essential to survival. Therefore, these things had been decided beforehand, but there was one more thing. They had also decided where to send Fear to in the event of an attack. I'm sorry for making Fear-sama walk through such an uncomfortable situation. Rustling, Lizelot said as she stood in the forest a short distance from the lake. He had been holding onto Fear's arm to stop her from getting lost, and he pulled her arm and walked ahead of her. Please don't mind. I don't like it if it's not on the carpet. I understand that this is not the time to make such light-hearted remarks. Thank you. Lizelot and the others were currently using an escape route that had been prepared in the villa to get outside. Turning around, he could see the lakeside and the ice dome that shone brightly in the moonlight. There was a hole in the ceiling, which must have been the result of an attack on the villa by another assailant other than the one Julius was dealing with. Even so, everyone is very calm and collected, especially Lizelot-sama and your group. It should only have been a short time since you joined the organization, right? It's no wonder that Fear would raise such a question. After all, they are far too well coordinated. When the attackers appeared, a signal was sent, and any enemies that were leaked were dealt with by other personnel, and the attackers were allowed to escape while their attention was focused on the mansion. This was done without any panic, and without even a word, by someone who had only joined the club a little less than a month ago. It was impossible not to be amazed as a girl the same age. The ones who are truly amazing are Julius and Iris. My family is a lineage of knights, so I learned how to prepare myself when I find myself in a situation like this, but that's not the case with them. I don't think you're being modest. In fact, Iris was the first to arrive. Although I thought she took the most flashy and shortest route. Please rest assured. Although we have received permission from the owner, any negative effects of the extravagant performance will be compensated for by the royal family later. No, that's not the issue. As soon as she said that, Lizelot suddenly stopped in her tracks. While I was wondering what was going on, I suddenly heard a noise coming from the bushes in front of me. And after a little while, a young man with black hair appeared. I wish Ronnie and Chloe would use their heads a bit more. You see, if we don't keep a close eye on them like this, they'll escape. I have nothing in my hands. However, if you ask me if that means we don't need to be cautious, I'd have to shake my head. Are you the one joining us later? I wish that were the case. Lizelot drew the sword she had been carrying at her waist. In response, the young man gave a small smile. Well, that's a natural response, isn't it? But didn't you consider the possibility that I'm a normal person, Ronnie and Chloe? When you say those names, don't you think it's a stretch to think they'd fit into the general population category? Haha, that's for sure. That means their names are already known. But that's strange. Ronnie aside, Chloe isn't the type to introduce herself first. In fact, Chloe didn't even introduce herself. I just heard it from Julius. Julius, with his knowledge of the game, had simply predicted and informed them of the enemies that would appear. However, that only applies to the characters that appear in the game. This isn't the person I heard about from Julius. I had considered the possibility of a new recruit, but of all people, he came to our side. Their military strength is unknown, and it is unclear what cards they have in hand. Lizelot gripped her sword and became even more vigilant. Well, the situation has changed more than I expected. It looks like the client will need your help soon, so I have no choice but to ignore the ambush like this. But I don't think there's any point in working if the client is gone. Really, I think so too. But I work in a black workplace, so it's not that easy. When it's time to take something, I'll take it, and when it's time to damage someone's credibility, I'll do whatever it takes to make sure it doesn't get damaged. Otherwise, it'll be me who gets purged, not the client, and also... The black-haired young man Haku took out a knife from his sleeve. If the blame falls on my cute little sister too, I thought I might as well try my best. So, will you just die for now? You're an idiot, aren't you? Do you really think there's a woman out there who would just die quietly after being told that? As soon as he spoke, they both ran to the ground at the same time. I understand that I can't back out here. If there is one person being guarded, it is best to run away and aim to defeat the enemy face to face rather than showing your back to them. Fortunately, since we're all trapped inside the dome that Ulysses made, there is no sign of anyone else. Lizelot gripped her sword tightly and dived into Haku's arms. It's not that he was in my blind spot. I was just getting closer. Their respective weapons met, and a high-pitched sound echoed throughout the silent area. It doesn't end with just one time. Swords and knives crossed twice and a third time. You're younger than me, aren't you? Even so, it's quite surprising that you can swing a sword like this. Oh, but Roni is also a surprise in terms of her monster-like nature. So does that mean her environment is what makes her unexpected? Haku's knife was aimed firmly at his throat. However, Lizelot dodged at the last moment and unleashed a horizontal slash. However, Haku managed to stop it at the last moment by grabbing his wrist. That's not enough time. Well, I don't have the time. But I want to get rid of that princess quickly. But first, have you forgotten that I'm here? He twisted his wrist and pulled his hand away from his grip. The difference between a knife and a sword is the reach and weight of the weapon. It may not seem like much, but in close combat, this small difference can make a clear difference between victory and defeat. Lizelot immediately swung her sword down. Although she blocked it with her knife, her center of gravity seemed to have dropped a little. From this point on, as if taking advantage of the opportunity, Lizelot's sword accelerated. Lizelot saw Matt as pushing. Even Fear, who was watching from the sidelines, could tell who was gaining the upper hand in the accelerating exchange. It wouldn't be surprising if they were pushed back at any time. It was becoming increasingly difficult for Lizelot to defend herself against the knife, and the situation continued as if she was on the offensive. It's not like I've forgotten or anything, and finally, the knife was pushed all the way through, and Lizelot's sword cut diagonally through Haku's torso. As a result, a large amount of blood spilled out from Lizelot's mouth. Well, why? Fear couldn't help but ask in disbelief. However, Saku doesn't respond to that answer. Instead, he wiped the blood from his mouth and kicked Lizelot's body. You don't say that every single time, huh? Lizelot's body passed over Fear and crashed into a tree behind her. A painful coughing sound came from behind Fear. The only time I reveal my hand is when the audience has cooled off. I don't want to put a handicap on myself that's disadvantageous to me. Back in this world, taboo is taboo. Certainly, there is no benefit to revealing secrets in battle. Not knowing the species means it would take time to address it. If lives were at stake, that gap would definitely be fatal. Giving up such a valuable advantage would be a foolish move. I know that. However, the problem is that we don't know enough about the species. I'm sure Lizelot-sama has just slashed that man. However, the person in question is in good health. Well, that's not quite accurate. There are clear marks on the clothes that look like they were made by slashing from the shoulder, and there are also traces of blood having been wiped away from the mouth. Meanwhile, Lizelot only had stains on her clothes caused by being blown away. However, just like Haku, despite not having sustained any injuries, he vomited an obviously abnormal amount of blood from his mouth. We have a lot of difficulties too, you know. We have to show our determination every time we fight. I don't know, but while I was wondering about it, Lizelot ran off. And once again the metallic sound of knife and sword clashing echoed. You're moving really well. It must be pretty painful. I mean, normally you'd be a little scared if you didn't know the species. Gah, gah. They crossed paths again and again, sparking off battles. However, despite the physical damage, Lizelot's sword once again pierced Haku's chest. And then for some reason, Lizelot felt a pain in her chest. Huh? If you make it this far, I'm enough. True to his word, the knife was now swung at Lizelot's body. Although the sword prevented fatal injuries, small cuts and stab wounds gradually began to become more noticeable, and eventually, Lizelot collapsed on the spot. Well then, one person has dropped out. Haku raised the knife towards the throat of the fallen Lizelot. Then, Fear suddenly came in. Wait, there was the option to run away, but for some reason, he spreads his arms out to Haku, who is raising the knife, as if to protect him. My goal must be me. If so, there's no need to kill her. As you say, you are the only person I have any business with. So, of course I will understand your intentions and reply accordingly, okay? I'll let her off the hook for you. If he had prioritized his own life, it would have been undoubtedly better for him to turn around while fighting. But why didn't he do that? Seriously, why? I don't even know myself. Was it because he truly believed that Lizelot would win, or was it because he was simply scared, or perhaps because he had forgotten how to run away? Either way, now that he was standing in front of Haku even in this world, there is respect. I will pay my respects to you for risking your life to save others, one blow, without any pain. Haku raised the knife towards Fear once more. Is that all? It's scary. If I let my guard down, I'll burst into tears. My limbs are shaking, and I want to run away and turn my back on him right away. I want to go back to a peaceful, uneventful everyday life where I don't have to feel like this. I also wanted to attend school. Although being a princess means I have little freedom, I wanted to explore different places. In the end, I wasn't able to deepen my relationship with him. I wanted to deepen it. I wanted to fulfill my responsibilities as a princess. I still wanted to live. There must have been so much more that I wanted to do. Take that, but what if there was no way he could escape? What if they could just let a girl named Lizelot go? What if there was someone right in front of you who was about to lose their life because of you? If you can sacrifice your life to save someone else, it would be wise to do so. Help me, but... Please, I really can't help but wish for this. Of course, no matter how optimistic and philosophical the princess may be, she is still a girl who can be called a child. Someone please help. And here, it's okay. Lizelot, bleeding and collapsing to the ground, spoke up. My purpose is to earn time. Then, for some reason, a film of ice suddenly began to spread across the area. Nice fight, Lizelot. A dull pain ran through Haku's cheek, and he was sent flying, bouncing along the ground. And, with tears in her eyes, Fear blurted out those words without thinking. After all, wait, for some reason, right in front of me. A boy with a translucent arm made of ice was standing right in front of me. It's time for a player change. Princess, I'll continue the event. Battle. Gradually, the shape of a human figure begins to form on the thin layer of ice that is spread across the ground. The transparent skeleton gradually took on color and eventually transformed into a familiar-looking boy. Yalis, sorry for the delay. Perhaps as a result of hitting him, the tip of his knuckle is slightly cracked. However, when Julius lightly shook his arm, his skin returned to its soft state as if nothing had happened. There were a lot more flying insects than I thought. I thought it would be uncomfortable for the princess to walk around. So I went and cleaned it all up. I don't know how many opponents there were. I don't know what kind of battles they've been through. However, it is true that he has just appeared before my eyes. The fear that had assailed her until just now disappeared in an instant, and Fear, with tears in her eyes, collapsed on the spot. Julius met Fear's gaze and gently reached out his hand. Could you please keep an eye on Lizelot for a bit, huh? In return. You can rest easy now. His hand was placed on Fia's small head. It felt cool to the touch. Perhaps that's why Fear looked a little surprised. And then Julius gave a gentle smile this time. I will fulfill my words. Thought. For some reason, despite the situation, Fear's heart began pounding violently. That time, the words came back to Fear's mind many times. Listen, I will absolutely help you. I'll protect you so that you can live your school life with a smile from now on. As if to embody those words, Julius removed his hands from his head and showed his back. It's not that big. It's just a little big for a child. But in Fear's field of vision right now, for some reason, it appeared very large and reliable. Oh. I thought so. Whenever I see him, I am hit with the symptom. He appeared before me when I was prepared to die. He told me that he would protect me. He clenched his fist in front of me. I know it's a mission. I know it's his job. But despite the situation, my heart was pounding and my face was heating up. Perhaps the true nature of the symptom is, but... You hit me really seriously, rustling. Haku slowly appears from where he was blown away. However, despite the pain, there was no bruise on my cheek. In fact, there wasn't even a scratch. Julius sighed heavily and scratched his head. Damn, here comes a character outside the scenario. This is going to be a waste reincarnation. Isn't that a waste of a treasure? But Yuras took a step towards Haku. That's strange. I thought I had quite a few of you on my side. There have been a lot of strange visitors. For now, I asked them to act as ice sculptures that look good on the lakeside. That's quite interesting. Maybe I'll take a look later. Don't worry. I'll make sure to satisfy your curiosity right away. That's what it means to be here. Even if they were an unknown opponent who didn't appear in the game, it would be natural to assume they were a member of the Dark Guild, seeing how Lizola was defeated. Still an enemy. In that case, there's only one thing to do. Just to be sure, I'm asking. If you hand over the princess over there, I won't kill anyone unnecessarily, okay? From what I heard from Ron, you're very strong, so I don't want to fight you if I can help it. Say it, you idiot. Do you think I'd nod to a question like that? Yeah, I knew it. Haku pulls out another knife from his sleeve. Then Julius, I know that sounds obvious, but yeah, theft, violence, murder, kidnapping. Any of these are undoubtedly crimes. You all know that, right? Haku looked a little surprised at what Yura said. A smile naturally formed on his lips, and he looked Julius straight in the face as he spoke. Of course I know what I'm doing, and am aware that I'm doing something wrong. There's no need to look into the background and sympathize with me. All you see is that you were simply kind. However, Haku gripped the knife tightly. I have my own reasons for not retreating. I came out in front of the princess looking cool. I think it's time to stop the discussion. Let's get together. Main character hearing Haku's words, Yuras couldn't help but snort in laughter. Ha! I'm not the main character. I admit it, Fulan is surely, if everything had gone according to the scenario without his intervention, Fear would have been able to attend school and survive. Maybe a similar event had occurred without my knowledge and the protagonist had helped me. Perhaps this event occurred because I did not intervene in the scenario. I don't really care either way. If you've come this far. Villain if you are selected. To make a girl smile, just clench your fist. It doesn't matter. Even if it was a character that would bring about a downfall for himself. Even if leaving here would make his future safer. If a girl is crying in front of you, no matter if you're the hero or villain, there's a clear line to what you should do. Extraordinary person, why? All you have to do is just blow it away. Princess, we can save you. Really, how arrogant. Main character, there were some people like that. Well, so what? Princess, to save the villain, clenched his fist. And so, the non-scenario event's final phase, all of these were now in place. The two of them jumped off the balcony and landed on the shore with a good view of the lake. Is the glowing rain feeling cold because of the film of ice that is spreading all around? However, even this strange feeling could be called abnormal, even though he was a child, strong, I don't care. When he was thrown out, he must have been kicked in the solar plexus as a definite pain spread through Ronna's abdomen. However, on Ronna's face was an eerie smile that was the complete opposite of anguish. It's strangely quiet outside, so does that mean the others have been defeated? In other words, both Oni-chan and Haku-kun are fighting the other knights? This is just a prediction, and we don't know what the actual situation will be. But still, without any sign of impatience or hurry, Ronnie let out a shout of excitement at the top of his lungs. Come on, lovely pleasure it has spread. Big sister, battle what's about to begin is a thrilling sport where you can enjoy both the thrill and the pain. Receiving this, the girl opposite with flowing brown hair unfolded her accordion-style sword. Shut up. I just want a rematch. However, at that moment, a similar smile was also on Iris' face. I'll pay you back for that. Just because you're a brat doesn't mean you have to be merciless. That's what a beautiful maid is like. Remember that! Ha ha! The man who was helpless back then is saying something. Ronnie waves her arms. Compressing air. When compressed to its limit, air is as strong as a wall. Slam it with all your might in the direction it was won. It's impossible to avoid it because you can't see it. It's unclear how far you should run, so it's impossible to deal with it on first sight. But I've already experienced that. Iris swings her accordion sword straight to the side. Then, for some reason, the ground next to Iris was dug up, but the body of the girl who I wanted to blow away was still standing there with all her limbs intact. Huh? If only we knew the species. Magic trick, how boring. What should I say at a time like this? Oh, that's right. As expected of Master with hearts in her eyes, Iris recalled the conversation she had with Julius a while ago. Listen, that excited brat's magic is air manipulation. His invisible attack is simply a wall of compressed air slamming into the direction he swings it. Is that so? But how can you dodge it if it's just air? A wall is a wall, and if you cut into it, it will disperse into mist. So, there's no need to be too scared, you know. There are always preparatory movements before using magic, so you can deal with it any number of times. Ronnie's magic is the manipulation of air. However, if you don't send instructions to the manipulated air, you won't be able to attack your opponent. In other words, if you just pay close attention to its movements, you can roughly predict what will come from where. Yeah, nothing like that. It was just a fluke. It was just a fluke. I won't try. Ronnie waves his arms not once, but twice, 3 times. Even so, Iris kept her feet firmly on the ground by simply swinging her wobbly, irregular bellows. Why? Well then, it's now this beautiful girl's turn to excite the audience. Everyone, can you predict what she'll be doing with this extremely rare weapon? The one and only accordion-style sword was swung towards the surprised Ronnie. The blade extended through the tube and swung like a whip, digging into the ground as it approached Ronnie's body. However, Ronnie firmly grabbed the swinging sword midway with one hand and pulled it back. I can't predict it, but I can catch it, and really, this is how it is. Audience, I can't believe I'm trying to stir up trouble. Well, Ronnie's body was lifted up and slammed to the ground. Ha! You're swinging such a heavy weapon! Your strength and leg power are unsuitable for a beautiful girl. Iris isn't so naive as to let that opportunity slip away. He dashed across the ground in one bow and approached the fallen Ronnie while swinging his accordion sword. He got up and deflected the approaching serpentine sword with his fist. However, in the next moment, Iris sneaked up close and delivered a kick that pierced his solar plexus. Bah, you're holding onto my sword because you're wrapping compressed air around your arm to prevent it from touching you, right? But that defense is only localized. Air manipulation is difficult to use because it involves an intangible gas. As a result, when attacking, it is difficult to manipulate the gas in any direction, and even when wrapping it around oneself, it only provides localized protection. Well, to be precise, it can be applied to the whole body, but it can only defend against simple attacks with low power. The only way to defend against a blade with great power like Iris is to concentrate it locally. If we do that, of course, the other parts will be left completely empty. Well then, if we attack them, they're no threat at all. Have you learned your lesson, little brat? Well, I'm just repeating everything I learned from my master. Iris kick slams into Ronya's neck. I want to block it. But if I do, the most incredible accordion sword will slice through my body. That's why only the attacks that couldn't be blocked were hammered firmly into Ronya's body. Oh, hey. There was no way a girl who relied solely on her magical talents could defeat Iris in close combat. After all, although she may lack magical talent, Iris possesses an exceptional talent for close combat that surpasses even adults. But still, oh my, this is the best. With a bang, Iris' palm slammed into his stomach and his small body rolled to the edge of the lake. That's right. This is what it's like. This tension that makes me want to cry out in pain and fear. This sense of realism. I can only feel this because I'm alive. It tells me that I'm alive. This moment, when I can truly feel that I'm alive, is wonderful. A foundling's life is worthless enough to be abandoned. No matter what I do, I am treated badly, and even if I am alive, I am only a nuisance to others. No matter where I go, I have never felt truly alive since I was born. That is why the young girl wants to feel alive, even if it means losing your life. Thank you, mate, big sister. Today, I feel like I'm living the best I can. Ronnie took a deep breath and shouted, "Wow, it's a blow that vibrates the voice through the air and targets the opponent's eardrums." The physical damage caused by the amplified voice is not enough to cause a fatal injury. But balance just that. It can give you obstacles so severe that you can't even stand. From now on, it's my turn. Pleasure, I'll give it back to you exactly the same, with 100 times the service. But that's also his intention. Ronnie quickly realizes that it was all an illusion. You really have a big movement. Ah, Iris should fall. A girl carrying a bellows sword approaches straight here. For some reason, there were earplugs in his ears. I've heard that from my master. My favorite villain, don't underestimate me. And then, the next moment, Iris' foot slammed into the top of Ronnie's head with a dull thud. Oh, God, really? If you don't stop being such a tomboy, you'll end up causing trouble in the future. Ronnie loses consciousness and her body collapses to the ground. Seeing this, Iris turns her back and starts walking away. Well, it's not my role to lecture you, so I'll just end it as a distraction. Please do your best to fix your twisted personality in your cell, you brat. Second time! The battle with the mid-boss character that was not included in the scenario ends under moonlit night. The result was handed down by the villain's maid. I'm the older sister, so there are a lot of things I have to do with the pen. Footsteps echoed through the dimly lit corridor of the villa, lit by the moonlight. My sister is a troublemaker, and I have to earn money to survive in. So you kill it's a necessary job to do that. Chloe slowly touches the wall beside her. Then, in the blink of an eye, the wall disappeared and a new wall appeared above Celia's head. Without any delay, the thread is twisted to cut it. And your weapon is thread. That doesn't seem very knight-like, not at all. This time, Celia spun the long thread she had stretched out sideways. Originally, knight referred to a warrior on horseback. It applied to people who handled a variety of weapons such as swords, spears, and bows, but now it only has a vague image of a sword, and there is no clear definition. The swan thread, carrying tiny vibrations, cut straight into pillars and walls. What would happen if you touched it? It's not hard to imagine as you watch the scene of it being cut to pieces like paper. In that case, there's no problem with having such an eccentric person around, right? Well, it doesn't really matter with the BAM. For some reason, I heard footsteps from behind me. Because if it doesn't hit, there's no point. Chloe's magic is the transference of objects. Although there are some limitations, it is possible to move anywhere, whether it be one's own body, another person, or surrounding objects. Therefore, I can do this too. He takes out a test tube from his pocket. She didn't know what was inside, but the purple-red liquid sent chills down Celia's spine. What a disgusting taste. Reflexively, Celia pulled the string stretched across her back and stepped back. Suddenly, a purple-red liquid was spraying where he had been, and the floor seemed to have melted as if it had rotted. Really? You have no carelessness or weaknesses. There's no need to let your guard down. Chloe touches the wall. Until now, I have not been able to let my guard down. If I let my guard down even a little, I will be eliminated. I will not be able to survive. A wall appears above your head. If you cut one, the second one will attack you. Even if you wake the threat, it will just appear behind you before you know it. In order to be able to be with my cute little sister, I'm always serious. I just do what I have to do with all my might. Abandoned children have no place to go and no one to rely on. Even if you are a child, if you let your guard down, you can be exploited, hurt, and lose everything. As long as they themselves can survive. He shows no mercy to others. He will protect his own world, even if it means taking everything from others. You guys who live in a naive world wouldn't understand, right? But it's okay. There's no need for you to understand. We'll just be the ones exploiting you. As always, what appeared next was not a wall, but an ordinary pebble. Celia's attention was focused on the pebble, which was clearly not a surprise. Chloe didn't miss that opportunity. She went behind him and reached out her small hand to snatch his head. Exploitation? From whom? Right, and that's what I tried to do so. A solid, heavy kick pierced Chloe's solar plexus. Bah, choose your opponent, you little brat. That's a formula that only works if the other person is of a lower rank than you. Her small body rolls down the villa's corridor. Perhaps because her selling point was that she couldn't even take a hit, Chloe had no tolerance for pain and began coughing loudly. Gah! Gah! Wow! How did you know your location? My consciousness should have been turned away by the weak power in the middle of the raging attack. No, in the first place. How did he know where he was going after traveling in an instant? If you want to turn your attention away, there's no point in letting it get in your field of vision. With a bang. This time, the sound of Celia's footsteps approached Chloe. I learned this from a cute junior of mine. But it seems that the magic of a girl who can move a certain object doesn't work unless she actually touches it. Celia recalled a conversation she had with Julius a while ago. I don't really want to say it, but in terms of trouble, my other sister is more troublesome. After all, when the focus starts moving, it's impossible to pinpoint a target. Then what should I do? That thing can't move unless it's touched. It doesn't matter if it's an object or a part of the human body. If they were trying to kill it for sure, they would probably try to kill it by moving only its neck. Celia had a small smile on her face. Subaru, in that case, we should aim for that moment. The moment when he comes within reach, the moment when he is aware of his victory. But where are you? It's obviously in my blind spot, isn't it? Like I said before, if you're trying to divert your attention, there's no point in letting it get in your field of vision. When you come into the other person's field of vision, you will inevitably be noticed. If there was a way to reliably chop off the head and kill someone, there was no reason to choose a moment when the enemy's attention was focused on them. To be more certain, it would be appropriate to target blind spots that are definitely not noticed. Then always, no matter what happens, you just need to focus on your blind spots. But even if it's not in a blind spot, as long as I touch your body, it won't change that I have one. On unsteady legs, Chloe slowly stood up. Hands, legs, neck, chest, whatever. I'll rip off all of your limbs and expose you to death. What pisses me off the most is high-handed lectures. I'll kill you in an ugly, beautiful, cruel, elegant, and extreme way. A voice that sounded crazy, mixed with a hint of irritation. A complete stranger would surely be surprised if they knew that this was coming from a young child. I thought so. You two are sisters. After all, it seems like your levels of insanity are similar. Letting out a big sigh, Celia tugged on one of the stretched strings. Suddenly, the wall above them that Chloe had just passed through collapsed, completely blocking their view. For some reason, Chloe gasped at this. Huh? I don't know how he knows this, but can you only cast magic if you can see where you're going? Barely. Moonlight shines through the gaps in the rubble. The corners of Celia's mouth twist in the light. Now, here's a question, with a bang. The sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. At first, I said that I was stringing a thread through the entire building to detect it. Now, if the thread I've stringed through the pillars, floors, and walls were to cut through everything, what would happen to this building? Are you kidding me? Chloe showed signs of impatience for the first time in a while. He was so desperate that he instantly moved in front of her and tried to grab her head. If you can't catch it, then you just destroy it all, but before that... Well, even if the building is destroyed, there's no one there, so it's no problem. Someone other than me will probably repair it anyway, Chloe and Celia. The villa collapsed beautifully, taking both of them with it. Illuminated by the moonlight, the ice sheet and the lake create a fantastic sight. Celia slowly crawled out from under the rubble of the collapsed villa. Really? I don't know if it was good luck or bad luck. Celia sat down, gave a wry smile, and in one swift move pulled her arm out of the rubble. From his hand, a girl with black and pink hair appeared. I'm glad he's alive. No, should I say I'm glad? Well, if I kill him, my junior might be sad, so I think I'll just say I'm glad the girl was unconscious but still breathing properly. The other person is like Chloe or Ronnie in formation. He is not someone I have any connection with. That's why I have no intention of slacking off here. However, if you suddenly start fighting straight ahead and your opponent is unsure of how to respond, you may find yourself at a disadvantage. Therefore, Joyce took the lead, long-distance combat to force. The Rose Garden, a layer of ice spreads across the entire area at your feet. The area gradually rises up, eventually forming a rose garden with distinct thorns. Oops, the roses that form around him restrict his movement. I have no desire to step into the sharp thorns myself. Aiming for that moment, Julius dug out the thorny vines he was holding in both hands and swung them at Haku. Well, so what of it? However, Haku manages to avoid the vines by moving his body steadily. The downside of this is that the thorns of the roses blooming around him are sure to prick him. But for some reason, blood was seeping down Julius' leg. All I have is a knife. Don't stand so far away. Let's play closer. Haku stepped powerfully, paying no attention to the thorns around him. Legs, arms, torso. The thorns pierced Haku's body without any gaps, and once again Julius' body began to bleed. Ha ha! How troublesome! Ha ha! There's not much benefit to being considerate towards boys. Julius seemed to sense something and instantly destroyed the beautiful-looking rose garden. By that time, Haku's body was firmly in Yura's arms. It's enough to worry about girls, that's right. He instantly created a dagger made of ice. From there, both Yura's and Haku's knives squeaked in unison. It was a light weapon. Their swings were quicker than a simple sword clash. But maybe it's because he's trained with Iris many times. It was Julius who first landed a wound on his opponent's body. Oops, Yura's dagger deflects Haku's knife. Then Julius plunged the knife into Haku's shoulder, and a hot pain ran through his own shoulder. Villain, a gap has been discovered. Bang! While Julius flinched, Haku slammed a kick into his torso, making a dull thud. You have surprisingly many weaknesses. I was on my guard because I had heard from Ron that you were the strongest. Oh, so that's why you're surrounded by girls? They often say that boys with a few flaws are more likely to be liked than perfect superhuman. Julius bounces on the ground multiple times. He braced himself, gripped the spear he had formed in his hand, and threw it with all his might at Haku's torso. Oops, close call. Haku twisted his body to dodge it. Your attacks are so versatile. I never get bored of watching them. Or rather, I'm always nervous because I feel like I'm going to get hurt if I take my eyes off you. Even so, a smile formed on Haku's lips as he spoke. I don't think they're letting their guard down. However, it is true that there is a sense of ease somewhere now. What shall we do when this is over? They both ran across the ground at the same time. Haku still had the knife in his hand, while Julius clutched the newly formed sledgehammer. It would be nice to go out to eat some delicious food with Ronnie. Also, Chloe doesn't care about clothes, so maybe we could pick some out together. Though she would probably hate it. They moved close to each other, and the knife was plunged into Julia's thigh. However, the sledgehammer immediately struck Haku's side, blowing his body into the bushes, and Yura's too was bleeding from his mouth. Are you okay? Haku appears completely unfazed and gets up from the bushes. Wiping the blood from his mouth, he gripped the knife once more and approached Julius. I won't lose. I no longer know whose blood is lying on the ground. Was it Lizelot who had fought first, or Julius, or perhaps even himself? I'm used to the pain a little more. If he waited a little longer, the accumulated energy would definitely slow down Julius' body. With that dullness, he could take down his opponent even if he was capable of killing a dragon. There's no way a guy like me who grew up in the slums could lose a contest of endurance to a knight who grew up in a greenhouse. Ulysses' sledgehammer is swung. However, his grip weakened and the bullet slipped out, and instead of being aimed at his torso, it missed his face. Haku ducked in an instant, and the huge hammer passed over his head. Here it comes. Dullness caused by accumulation. Looking again, I noticed that there was blood oozing out of Jules' body in various places. His legs also seemed a bit unsteady. The damage was obvious from the blood around his mouth, which never seemed to be wiped away. That's why this match is mine to win. Seeing Yura's slowness, Haku plunged a knife into his throat. Lord Julius is going to lose? Fear, who was holding Lizelot in her arms and watching from a short distance away, began to feel a growing sense of anxiety in her heart. After all, although Haku is showing blood in places, it is clear that he is in good health. On the other hand, Ulysses looked in such a bad state that the word battered suited him best. Surely, they are using whatever it was that drove Lizelot into such a corner to inflict damage on Julius. If push comes to shove, I'll do it. The moment I thought that, Fear suddenly shook her head. No, let's believe in Lord Julius. I have no choice but to believe in Ulysses. If he falls, it's your turn. For you to survive, he must stay alive. But more than that, I really want to believe in Ulysses. He appeared before me in a flash when I was prepared for death and scared, hero. Right now, I wish for him more than anyone else here. Lord Julius, was that prayer answered? Hey, villain, grab it! Julius grabbed Haku's wrist, which was about to be stabbed. And villain, you're making fun of him too much, you idiot. Magic trick, but if we find out the species, we're all done for. Haku's body was instantly encased in a block of ice. An ice object made by Ulysses. Haku appeared from within, breaking it open and getting out. This is the ice cage Roni was talking about. It's certainly not good if I keep getting hit by this. No, more than that. What did it say just now? Did you get the seed? As soon as he slipped out, a moment of doubt occurred to Haku. But there's no problem. I've already taken into account that my magic will be understood to a certain extent. Haku's magic allows the damage that accumulates in his body to be shared with others. Bludgeoning, slashing, even poison. All kinds of external and internal injuries, time it is given upon request. It's something that anyone would probably realize if they were to fight at some point. Whether or not you can deal with it is another matter. Can you attack knowing that it will come back to haunt you? Once it's no longer verification but confirmation, your defense instincts get in the way and you can't continue attacking properly. If that happens, we'll be on each other's side. There is no return for attacks that the opponent receives. It is a one-way street. That's why, if we start attacking them, the outcome will be that's why sweet I told you so. But the moment he raised the knife, Julius' palm slammed into his jaw. Your magic isn't just damage transfer, is it? As he leaned back, Julius' hand once again reached for his sleeve. At that moment, I was once again trapped inside the ice object. To be precise, you are simply sharing the wounds you have suffered with others and then healing your own wounds. And then, Julius took the ice object and kicked it with all his might, aiming for Haku's solar plexus. I mean, it's not like you're invincible or anything. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trying to avoid fatal attacks. If all you can do is redirect all your attacks towards other people, then you should just kill yourself instead of continuing the fight. The fact that he didn't do so, and instead dodged the spear thrown by Julius and the sledgehammer heading towards his face, was simply because there was a disadvantage to be taken. If they die, you die. No matter how much you've recovered, there's nothing you can do if you receive a fatal injury that will result in instant death. That's why. An intense pain echoed through Julius' abdomen. Even if you know that, why are you planning to do? Are you going to launch an attack that will easily inflict a fatal wound? I should mention that there is still one question remaining. That's right. The most important part is still unclear. Haku coughed loudly and approached Joris with the knife in his hand. There is still one question left to be answered. If you die, what will happen to the other person? You've seen through him so well, it's okay to treat him like this. I like that, gah, gah. The sound of daggers and knives clashing echoed between the two of them. Just as you predicted, if I die, you die too. The wounds I received will remain. Whether I die or not, the moment I receive a fatal wound, the other person will receive that fatal wound too. That's the kind of magic it is. Even if you reach a point where self-healing magic can't reach you, your sharing magic will remain alive and well, as if it were a curse. Now, what will you do now that you know this? Be cool. Princess appeared in front of Hero. Are you going to run away with your tail between your legs, regardless of appearances or reputation? Prepare to sacrifice. Unless that's the case, Haku can't be killed. If your opponent can kill you mercilessly, but you yourself cannot kill them, you're stuck with no way out. There's no point in fighting anymore. The only thing to do is run away. Even if you think so, it's not surprising. How many times do I have to say it? Bang bang. From behind Haku, another duelist swung his sledgehammer at his head with all his might. How long, villain, you're underestimating me, you damn loser. The question why dominated Haku's mind. After explaining all this, how can you continue attacking without flinching? Even with that attack, there was no doubt that damage was being directed towards Julius. Even though you will be healed, you still have to take the damage once. The mental damage from that will accumulate separately from the physical damage. Imagine this. Imagine your own body becoming immortal. What if someone was constantly physically hurting you over and over again? It must be unbearable pain. It's precisely because they can heal that they have to go through the pain over and over again. Pain is an alarm that sends out a line of defense designed to prevent further damage to the body. They try to prevent damage by making you feel like you never want to experience it again. If such a warning were to be given to the body all the time, it's nothing more than a test of endurance. Julius' spin kicks landed from the front and back. It's nothing compared to me dying. I don't want to die, so I clench my fists desperately. It's been that way ever since I was reincarnated. I have lived my whole life in fear, plagued by the threat of catastrophe that could occur at any moment. I hate pain, but I hate dying even more. But more than that, I was surprised myself. I would hate it if someone got hurt right in front of me. That's why I can keep clenching my fist. Even though he wasn't hit, he still couldn't bring himself to stop, even when he received his own attack. Fists, sledgehammers, kicks slammed into Haku's body again and again from behind and in front. You idiot! You hypocrite! Say whatever you want. The sledgehammer in Julius' hand finally sunk into Haku's cheek. Oh, I'm used to being insulted. Haku's body bounded along the ground and was slammed into a tree. The pain running down his cheek, the pain from being slammed, won't leave Haku's body. Why? Has your body really reached its limits? Couldn't bear the pain and lost the test of endurance? No, that can't be true. A hothouse-raised bastard. In that case, the only thing we can think of is, I see, you've run out of magical power. There is probably also a difference in the total amount of magical power to begin with. However, Haku's magic simultaneously performs two spells allowing others to share their wounds and healing his own body, and he uses twice as much as Yura's and the others. In other words, by simple calculation, it would be Haku who would run out of magical power first. You didn't notice? But that's strange. If you're using magic, your body will automatically tell you when your magical power is running out. Did that hurt? With a bang, Julius walked across the thin layer of ice, gripping the ice hammer tightly. Running out of magical power is also an alarm that magicians have in their bodies. But the body isn't like a highly functional computer that will tell you anything you want if you set it up. Two is impossible, so instead it will prioritize warnings that are life-threatening. Huh? That means speaking only while you were being hit. It wouldn't have been strange if you hadn't noticed that your magic had run out. We can't continue this test of endurance forever. However, as long as the opponent's mysterious phenomenon is magical, there is a clear limit. So, if we aim for that, the outcome will come into view naturally. Well, Yura spoke to Haku, who was trying to get up. You've had enough fun at the event, haven't you? It's about time for the event to close. There is no magic. The only means of attack is a single knife. Seeing the injured Yura slowly approaching, clearly carrying a weapon, Haku finally realized. It seems like there's no way to make a comeback from here. There is an option to escape. However, unlike Ronnie and Chloe, she does not possess any flashy or convenient magic. But even so, could they escape from Julius, who, although injured, still seemed able to fight? Yeah, life comes first in the end. I was only acting for myself. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The fact that he has been able to survive in this dark world is ultimately a result of always prioritizing himself. That's why it would definitely be better to turn around and gamble on the possibility of escaping, no matter how hard you try. But oh, are you on another mission with Hakukan? We'll split the reward evenly. But when we get back, I'll treat you to a steak. It's nice and easy with Haku here. I only want to do what's necessary. Oh, I'd like some steak too, okay? And why? Seriously, why? The image of the twin girls he had been with for a long time flashed through Haku's mind. It was about 5 years ago that a man named Haku met the twin girls. Hey, what should we do? Should we fight? Just tell me what I have to do. In the guile that lives behind the scenes, there is no hierarchy other than ability. There is no consideration for who arrived first or who is older. The judge is solely on their ability to complete the request or not. However, it would be a problem if we just threw someone who knew nothing into the open and they got caught and started coughing up information. For this reason, it was customary for someone to provide some training to new recruits. The first time Haku was involved in this habit was 2 months after he had joined the Dark Guild. The other party was a pair of twin girls who had been abandoned and raised in a Dark Guild. Seriously? I'm not cut out to be a babysitter. At this time, Haku was 13 years old, young even within the guild. However, the twin girls were both 5 years old, a year younger than Haku and just beginning to become aware of things. And yet, he is already trying to get his hands dirty as a member of the guild. Haku was also surprised when he first met them. However, well, I'll only take care of her up to her education. I feel sorry for them, but I don't care whether they die or not. If you worry about other people's things, you will be eliminated from this world. So, it's just a hassle. Let's just look after it. Hey, what should we do? Preferably somewhere radical and wonderful. Take it easy. Hey, you guys. Stop giving orders that are so far off the mark. With that in mind, Haku continued to act alongside the twin girls. However, perhaps because he was a foundling who had been specially picked up and raised, he was already an excellent child, on par with the other members, even at the young age of 5. I completed the request over and over again, and when it was finally time for it to leave my hands, it was still surviving. In an industry with high turnover, perhaps because we were in charge of the same location, we continued to see each other the same way even after 2 or 3 years. Hakukan, you just can't die. That's obviously what I was saying. 2 little kids? Ah, congratulations on your promotion to executive position. To celebrate, I'd like to try something called pancakes. Me too. So I'm going to quietly become arrogant even though I'm the one who was congratulated. If you really pay attention, I have finally become a leader, and the other girls followed suit and became leaders as well. Maybe because we're now in similar positions, we've been spending more time together. Haku-kun, look at this! I found a stuffed animal that's perfect for Oni-chan. I wonder if she'll be happy. Haku, look. The other day I found a stuffed toy in town that was just perfect for Romy. Do you think she'll be happy if I give it to her out of the blue as a surprise? My sister seems to be a bit off the hook. Perhaps because he was an abandoned child, he can only feel alive through pain and thrills. My sister appears to be reliable, but she is cold-hearted. If necessary, they will be ruthless in getting things done. Even so, there is still something childlike about him. I'm crazy too. I am the best. The concerns of others are secondary to those of oneself. It won't change. That part will never change. But when I spend time with the two of them, I can't help but hold them. Oh, Haku is like an older brother to me. Ah, that's true. Haku-kun, you're my big brother. It feels that way. There's nothing I can do about this. Ah, really it's not like me to think something like this. However, I'm the older brother among them after all. I've grown attached to him, so there's really nothing I can do. Therefore, before Julius approached, Haku turned his gaze to fear. There is a chance of escape. It would probably be a shameful move to turn around and do whatever it takes. The chances are low, but if there's even the slightest chance, you should bet on escape. But what if? What if the other two people survived in this situation? Surely, if he returned to the guild, he would be held responsible for not being able to complete the request as a senior member and would be killed. So at the end there's nothing I can do about this feeling, so I'll just try to act on it. This is our last desperate attempt. Let's go to hell together! And then he plunged the knife he was holding into his own throat. If you think this is just a last resort, then back off, you idiot. Haku's magic only targeted people that he could see with his own eyes. After all, if you don't select a target, the destination would just float in the air and have nowhere to go. That's why, if an ice wall were to be erected between Fear and Haku, it would all become meaningless. Damn it, Haku smirked at the towering wall of ice and gently put his knife down. I instantly started to dislike you, don't worry, and then, the next moment, with a dull thud, the hammer slammed into Haku's head. I've hated you since the beginning. Haku's body collapsed to the ground, powerless. The leaders of unrelated cults that appear in the game, and those that don't have any connection to each other gather together. Final phase. Thus, events outside the scenario, it all came to an end with his hand. Well, I guess that's true or whatever. No matter how much you try to show off, pain is pain. Seeing Haku collapse weakly and fall to the ground, Ures also lay down on the spot. Oh, that hurts. That doesn't mean there isn't any pain. Haku's magic is what you might call a mirror, where everything you do is reflected back to you. Therefore, even if you defeat it completely, you still feel the pain. It's just that I can endure it, but once I no longer have to endure it, tears well up in my eyes. Why am I acting so crazy outside of an event? Didn't I leave the school to avoid this from happening? Could all of this be a side effect of all the heroines who were supposed to be attending the school gathering together? With tears in her eyes, Julius looked up at the beautiful moonlit night and lamented quietly in her heart. By the way, from here school, what about Evenson? Haku doesn't appear in the scenario, so maybe he's not relevant. But what about the twin girls who were in a position of mid-boss? The twins' magic had been communicated to Iris and Celia beforehand. I don't know what's going on, but considering their strength, I don't think they'll lose. They'll probably have won the battle by now. This means that there is no character who can encourage the protagonist's growth. What will happen to the story that was originally supposed to precede and the main characters? Well, never mind. Those kind of things will be created by people who get excited with sweat, water, and love. I'm the type who doesn't care about that sort of thing. In the first place, he joined the Knights because he didn't want to get caught up in the events of the main characters. I don't care what happens to them as long as it doesn't harm me. If Luna could keep me updated on the latest developments, I wouldn't have to get caught up in that sort of thing in the future. Having come to that conclusion, Julius continued to look up at the night sky with tears of pain in his eyes. Lord Julius, and then pop it up. Peering closer, Fear's beautiful face unfolded before my eyes. Are you okay? I think it's cooler to show off here, so I'll just say it's okay once you have that preamble. All the pretense of looking cool becomes meaningless, that's right. I don't really care about myself, but what about you, Lizelot? When you first appeared, you were in quite a precarious position when you collapsed, right? Lady Lizelot is currently unconscious. I used light healing magic to administer first aid as best I could, so there is no danger to her life at the moment. I see, Lizelot is safe. There was no sign of any further pursuers. If Iris and the others had successfully defeated the twins, then this would have resolved the escort event for the time being. That's why a wave of relief surged through Julius' chest, even though his body hurt. However, I'm sorry. Fear gently wiped the tears from Julius' eyes as he lay there. Because of me, you've been hurt this much. He is safe and not fatally injured. However, Ulysses' clothes and skin were in tatters and blood was seeping out in places. In addition, he fought mainly with strikes, taking into account the feedback he had received, so there are likely internal injuries that are not visible. Fear must have sensed that pain. A clear sense of guilt was visible on her beautiful face. So well, they're guards after all. Julius got up and slowly reached out to touch Fear's head. That's our role, and not all lives are equal in value. You're superior, and as long as you're alive, no one has any complaints. So there's no need to feel guilty. That's what a guard is. Even if it means getting hurt, he must protect those he must protect. To that end, he must step forward even if it means risking his life. There is no reason to apologize for that. In the first place, the fact that she was a princess meant that her life was more valuable than anyone else in this country. Is that so? That's right. As Julius stroked her head, Fear chewed her food in an understanding manner. However, there are still some things to think about. Seeing a beautiful girl's face, Julius looked a little troubled. What can I do to make the girl in front of me smile? Such thoughts naturally crossed my mind. Therefore, after thinking deeply for a while, Julius began to speak with some hesitation. Oh, but... Well, actually, there's more to it than that. Well, if a girl is in danger, it makes a guy want to clench his fists. Fear looked a little surprised at what Julius said. And then that's why I promised you back then that I would help you laugh that... Suddenly, yet surely, Fear's heart leapt up. If you can't be persuaded by some grand, ordinary, stiff reason, why not be persuaded by this little man's vanity? I'm not really used to saying things like this, so I don't know what to say. Perhaps aware that he had said something embarrassing, Julius praised him lightly and scratched his cheek. Seeing Julius like that, I don't know why. But I already know the reason. This is why we can't take our eyes off him. I think it has changed. He's completely different from when we met at parties a few years ago. On the contrary, I felt like he was somehow different from other people. This was different from the man who approached her because she was a princess, or who spoke to her based only on her appearance. Although he tries to distance himself from her, I sensed a deep kindness in him. And he said that to me, someone he hadn't even talked to much. And who would clench their fist this hard for him? Who would put aside any duties or responsibilities and stand up for a girl named Fia, even if it meant getting totally worn out? Perhaps if we look hard enough, we might find it somewhere in this world. However, the person before me now was a boy named Yulsip Blancha. Really, that's just how it is. I understand it. The true nature of this beating in the heart. The sight and kindness reflected in his feverish eyes gave no other reason. Oh, but that's right. If possible, I would be grateful if you could repay this favor by demoting me, Lord Julius. Just as Julius was about to say something, Fear suddenly interrupted him. Julius found this strange, but before he could do so, Fear's hand slowly reached out to his face. What happens from now on? Can you please keep it a secret from anyone? And then, for some reason, Fear's beautiful face came closer and I felt a soft touch on my lips. What? Julius quickly lowered himself and pulled his face away. There's no way I don't know what they did to me. That's why I don't understand it even more. This brings to mind the fact that she has been turned into a beautiful girl and Julius' mind goes into panic. But on the other hand, Fear, the source of all this and the person involved, removed her hands from Julius' face. Thank you, Julius. Then turning to Julius with feverish eyes and flushed cheeks, he spoke. I adore you, Julius. At that moment, the enchanting smile that Julius had secretly desired was clearly on her face. In the end, with the cooperation of neighboring countries, the noble who had put a bounty on Fear was captured. Should we say that this is to be expected? As I investigated, it turned out that the reason for his actions was in saying he had fallen in love with Fear at first sight and wanted to get her, even if it meant her corpse or whatever. If the client disappears, there will be no source of payment. Therefore, the Dark Guild will likely not make any further moves. However, this incident resulted in the arrest of many members of the Dark Guild. Now that they've captured not only the low-ranking members but also the 3 executives, including Haku, it's possible that they may now begin to move forward with wiping out the Dark Guild. In short, the bounty commotion surrounding the princess has come to a formal end. Finally, Julius and his companions were able to return to the life of knights. Ha ha! I feel like I've joined a sports club. Waking up, eating, and then exercising is waiting for me. It feels so nostalgic. Ha ha, after returning from the villa, Yoris and the others returned to the Knights of the royal capital. A few days had passed since then, and Julius was running around the training grounds as a form of post-meal exercise. It feels like it's been a long time since I've run like this. Remembering the days when he had been running since his reincarnation, Julius felt a sense of nostalgia. Well, it finally feels like life in the Night Order. I've been busy lately, like a popular comedian. I hate being bored, but I also hate being busy. Ha! I finally understand the psychology of a corporate slave at work. Corporate slaves are a strange breed that accumulate hate no matter what environment they're in. Ha ha. What stupid things are you guys saying? Iris and Lizelot are running side by side. Each of them sighed softly for a different reason. Behind him, it's true, seriously. These new juniors are always talking nonsense. Celia, who wasn't out of breath at all, was running as a watchdog. As proof of this, both hands are tightly gripping copper weights. Here's a present. A weight is placed on the backs of the 2 running chatter corpses. I want you to understand how serious it is from the natural voices that come out of their mouths. However, thanks to the training I've done up until now, it's not so bad that I can't run. That's why the insolent junior starts to whisper to his senior who has been whipping him. Hey, do you know? That arrogant senior actually loves flashy performances, and apparently the other day he destroyed a villa without regard for the damage. I was being careful and playing outside too, but you just couldn't help yourself, huh? Giggles, you're surprisingly childish, making me laugh. However, that voice reached his ears quite clearly, huh? You still have a lot of energy. Look, here are 3 more cards from your childish senior in a spirit of service. Wipe it off. 3 were added. I almost fell onto my back. But how is that guy still running with 10 more bills in his hands? This is the moment when I really feel just how amazing Senpai is. It's fine, just run properly, you guys. Lizelot's shoulders felt heavy as she watched the 2 tomboys. Still, this is fun in its own way. This kind of playfulness makes it less boring than running endlessly alone. This is synchronization. Lizelot found herself feeling a little happy as she felt a strange sensation that she had never experienced at home. So, I just thought, will there really be a dawn after we accomplish this mission? There's no need to worry about that. After all, the selling point of the Royal Capital's Knights is the salary. In addition to the high base salary, there should be a separate bonus, so that means I can buy a new knife too? I'm sure you could buy hundreds of new knives with your basic salary. But well, feel free to use them however you like, and Celia smiled as she ran behind him. Let's celebrate our cute junior's first mission by going out for a drink today. Is that okay, right? Let's drink to our heart's content and empty his wallet. If you get drunk, leave it to us. This maid will take you to the bath. Hey, that's crafty. I'll carry you to the bathroom even if you don't get crushed. I guess we should be kind to our senpai's wallet, yeah? Let's drink in moderation and have fun in moderation. Not the toilet, not the bed. What on earth could they possibly be planning to do by dragging a drunk person into the bath? Julius was a little scared, so he decided to just enjoy the after party in moderation. At that moment, oh, isn't that the princess over there? Iris suddenly noticed a girl standing at the entrance. A beautiful girl with long lustrous hair flowing in the wind is for some reason looking in my direction. Julius and the others stopped and headed towards Fear, wondering if there was something they needed. Fear Sama, how is it? Lizelot, unweighted, arrived first and asked Fear. Then Fear smiled gently and said, Fafu, I thought I'd convey my thanks to everyone. Also, I'm currently in charge of the Knights of the Royal Capital, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to inspect and greet everyone. I see. I don't think you need to worry about it. Still, it would be strange to say anything more to the princess who had come all the way there. Lizelot took a step back and stood alongside the others who had finally arrived. At that time, for some reason, Fear stepped up to Julius and gave him a beautiful smile. Wow, what is it? A moment from a while ago comes to Julius' mind. It's a secret. Those words were directed at me, and it was an act that not everyone could do so easily. As she approached, her beautiful face and moist, cherry-colored lips left Julius feeling confused. However, without caring about that, Fear took Julius' hand. Lord Julius, how about we have dinner together sometime? Fastball straight, too much of an invitation. Iris couldn't help but cry out in response. However, it wasn't just Iris. Even Lizelot and Celia looked shocked. Meanwhile, Julius, who wanted absolutely nothing to do with the heroine, hurriedly averted his gaze. Why, yes! I think the missions will continue from now on, so if our schedules, which are probably seriously quite difficult for both of us, can match up, then by all means. I don't want to get involved, but I can't turn down the princess' invitation. That was why she replied with her eyes wide open, but for some reason Fear had a happy smile on her face. And then he gently brought his mouth close to Julia's ears. I'm quite an aggressive person, so be prepared for that. Hero dear, huh? A sweet, somewhat seductive voice. This reached Julia's ears and he instantly stepped back to put some distance between them. However, Fear found that side cute as well, as she turned her back to him with a happy look on her face. Well, I'll stop here. Everyone, please allow me to thank you at my leisure next time. The girl who suddenly appeared, causing chaos in the room, gradually faded away. When he eventually disappeared from sight, the people in the turbulent atmosphere all turned their attention towards Julius. Junior. Have you conquered any more since then, Ulysses? You idiot master, piercing gazes from beautiful girls. Hearing this, Julius couldn't help but look up to the sky. I feel like I'm going to cry. Reincarnated, he joined the knights to escape the flag of destruction. Still, for some reason, the heroines approached me. Will I be able to live a life free from scenarios from now on? Julius' busy days continued. Well. The other day, my dad asked me to do a new business deal. Now, that night. While the girls were at the bath, Julius was alone in the living room listening to the voice of a cute girl. A communication magic tool I received recently. Hearing the voice of the girl who received it, Julius couldn't help but smile. That's amazing. You're the same age as me, and you're already entrusted with business. I honestly admire you. I'm glad to hear you say that, Eurus-chan. When I received this magical tool, I was told a story about what happened at the school. Until recently, I wasn't able to do so because I was busy with down-to-related matters, but I finally started making phone calls recently. Perhaps because we've met several times now, we've started talking about things other than school. In particular, Yaras, who doesn't like things to be too formal, is now able to talk to Luna in a friendly manner, saying we don't need to use honorifics, and Luna responding, but so it seems they have become close. As for Ulysses, he isn't wary of the heroine and becomes close to her. Perhaps it was because the cooperation with me aspect made him think of them as an ally. By the way, is everything okay at the villa? My senior was acting all wild and ended up in a pitiful state. No, not at all. It's a place that we didn't use very often, but besides, this incident has caused us to owe the royal family a debt. Favor cannot be bought with money, so it's essentially a plus for the company. They'll even let us participate in a party hosted by the royal family next time. It's something I've said before. However, as Julius was not a merchant, he couldn't help but wonder, is that true? And was honestly worried. But also, I'd do anything for Julius huh? Oh, how about I give you a villa next time? Hearing those words, heat rose to Julius' cheeks. Oh, please don't tease me too much, Fafo. I'm not joking, but I get it. If you tease me too much, Iris will get angry. I'm confused as to whether she should be called the heroine or not, as I find myself thinking about every word and action she gives. The same goes for Iris, Lizola, Fear, and Luna. Recently, he has been at the mercy of Celia, a character outside of the game. Realizing this once again, Julius couldn't help but give a wry smile. And then, Master, are you talking to Luna again? There was a click. Suddenly, I felt a plump sensation attack me from behind. Hey, you beautiful maid. I know you're definitely not going to turn around, but I'll say it anyway. You're feeling way too soft on your back. Are you wearing a bathrobe? Yes, that's correct, damn it. I hit it. Now I can't confirm it with my own eyes. I can't look back. No, I want to look back. However, if we look back at this point, it becomes a picture of a man who has succumbed to his desires. After all, I guess that he was wearing a bathrobe first. I mean, you went to the public bath, didn't you? Where do you get the courage to walk around in a public place on your way to your room with just a piece of cloth? That's my love for my master. Kaya, no, Luna. She no longer has the modesty of a lady. Proof I lost it in the dresser. Ahahaya. Iris' chin is the same as always. There were several times when Iris would interrupt calls with Julius. Perhaps that's why Luna, speaking over the phone, wasn't surprised and gave a dry chuckle. Iris-chan, don't bother Yuraskan too much in that regard, okay? That kind of thing has to be something you both agree on first. If Luna says so, I'll just be obedient and put on some pants. Just pants. I wish they'd made at least one more concession. Iris, looking a little lonely, trudges off into her room. Julius took a sideways glance at him and let out a big sigh. I wonder if he's mistaken in thinking that I can use my iron fist on him at any time. I don't think that's the case. Also, I'm a little unsatisfied with the fact that you listen to Luna rather than me, your master. I think that's because there's a sense of closeness between them. You see, we're both commoners after all. Plus, it was probably because he had previously said something about Iris being reliable. Perhaps it was because he was recognized as a good person that he became closer to Luna. Ah, that reminds me. Suddenly, Luna reacted as if she had remembered something. There's a girl who enrolled late at the school recently. Perhaps the saint. Hey, do you know Julius? Well, a little bit. I haven't heard it, but that's one scenario. The saint, an angel of God and the pride of a world religion, is one of the heroines and enrolls late at the school. Being one of the heroines, Julius knew about it even though he had never seen or heard of it. That being said, the saint doesn't have much to do with her compared to the other heroines. I mean, there's no way she'll have any contact with him when she's not at school. If it had happened before I entered the school, maybe it would have happened. Like with Lizelot and Fear, relationships that have already been formed remain and continue on. Since this has actually happened, it is possible. However, if the school has already started and there is no connection, there are probably no plans for it to be created in the future. That was why Julius responded to Luna's words with a light nod. Oh, so you know this too. Maybe that assumption wasn't the right one. The Saint will soon be inspecting the royal capital's knights. Why? I thought it was finally over. It seems that the events surrounding the villain and the heroine are still continuing.